With the introduction of the Ninja Bike Messenger Bag, there has been a plethora of weird and wacky builds, let's call them. Despite none of these builds actually creeping into what a lot of people are saying is the new meta, and I've had varying debates of this, there are some pretty interesting possibilities that we are able to make up. One of these possibilities, or more an encompassing possibility, is going to be hybridized healer builds. The main reason for this though isn't actually the Ninja Bike backpack, it's more the recent buff/nerf to Dr. Home. Now, why is this a buff/nerf? The buff side of it is you no longer have to pick up tokens. You shoot an enemy, it tags them for 5 seconds. If they die during those 5 seconds, your team will get 5% armor regen. This is scalable to the individual. This is kind of where the nerf comes in. So, despite the fact that we no longer have to pick up these tokens, which is absolutely a buff, this was a huge drawback on the weapon being token based, having to pick up the tokens. What we now have is something a bit more annoying. Those tokens allowed us to overhaul the amount of armor gain. It was scalable with the player running Dr. Home, so if the player running Dr. Home was on a pure tank build, it was 15% of their armor, which meant that if you had 2 million armor and you were playing with people who only had 700k, they would get 15% of 2 million. This could also interact weirdly with things like Future Initiative, depending on the proximity players were in when you picked up those tokens. If they were close, they would get a 60% increase in that armor pickup. Now we don't get this, we literally just get 10%. I am at like 1.6 million armor on this build, so when there is a kill, I will get 10% of 1.6 mil. However, the Doctor, Digital Sky and Chromium here are running just normal DPS styled builds. They only have about 720k, maybe pushing 800 if they've done a little bit of expertise on their armor. They will only get 10% of that. So although it is a buff in the sense of we no longer have to pick up the tokens, it is a nerf in the sense of it doesn't heal anywhere near as much as it used to. This kind of does play quite well in some play styles. You can put this to be a lot more aggressive, and adding in the Ninja Bike Messenger backpack, it does mean that we're able to sort out a lot of stability and handling issues, along with the fact that it now stacks or builds into the chest talent of focus, meaning we can actually play this as a full-on DPS. However, I quite like my support styled builds, so what I have for you here is a support styled build. Now, I am dubbing this build the Combat Medic. It's a little bit tanky. I believe it's like, I think I literally have like 1.6 million armor. I have 5 armor cores. I am at skill tier 2, utilizing Technician as well as the Ninja Bike bag, and I'm rocking Pristine Example for the perfect focus, obviously. Fox's Prayer rolled blue for 1 rifle damage, 2 the damage to targets out of cover, and 3-piece Future Initiative. This gives me our 30% repair skill for the healing chem, which we are also running, some skill duration, some skill haste. However, it also offers ground control, increases you and your allies total weapon damage by 15% at full armor. In conjunction and using in tandem Dr. Home along with the repair chem, this is not an easy thing to keep up, and I'm still practicing with it, but it does offer some decent survivability for your team. As you can see here, we're just casually just running through a legendary mission. We've got a CC player, 2 DPS, and myself as a combat medic. As well as with Future Initiative, we are able to get a bit more repairs out of more group styled play, as when you repair an ally, all allies within 5 meters are also repaired for 60% of that amount. Sadly, this no longer scales with Dr. Home, but it does have an effect on your repair chem. Now you can, if you wish, and if you're wanting more heals, swap the Ninja Bite bag for Memento and then swap the Pristine Example chest for the Future Initiative chest. This will give your team, rather than 15% total weapon damage at full armor, it will give them 25%, and it will also mean that, I wouldn't suggest doing it on Legendary, but on Heroic, you'll be able to kill things quite easily and pick up a few tokens here and there. It's not really going to be the most amazing heals, but if you are wanting to go for more of a healer style, Memento will suit you better, simply just because of that 30% skill efficiency with all of your tokens. Now, in some respects, after playing with this build a little bit, mostly with the Memento and Future Initiative chest, it does work well pretty much regardless of the content. I wouldn't suggest taking it into something like the raid though. However, it does have its drawbacks. You don't have an initial burst of damage. You don't really want to be playing the DPS role. Despite the fact that you are somewhat tanky, the majority of this just comes from being able to heal yourself by use of the chems. Despite the fact that we do have some pretty decent DPS, it is mostly only really when Perfect Focus is at full stacks, offering us just over 1 million on body shots, and headshots as well as headshot crits are a roughly 1.5 mil. However, this is now going to come down to your accuracy. I would suggest trying to go for headshots simply just because we are using Pristine Example with Ninja Bite Backpack. This does give us a pretty substantial buff to headshots, as well as the fact that it is a rifle. Pretty much every roll on this is crit chance. We're at 58% crit chance, although the crit damage is lacking. I believe it's about 94-95%. Nothing really too amazing, but like I said, we're not here to actually deal damage. We're here to act as 1, a distraction, 2, hopefully a bit of a pseudo healer. It does work well in team compositions, although the range of which Dr. Home heals does seem to get compromised depending on how far people are away from either you or the target. It mostly does seem to be the player with Dr. Home. I think the range seems to be about 20 meters. For some weird reason, I don't know. I've tested this a few times. It seems sporadic at best, not always proccing on kill. Yeah, it's just flat out weird. I haven't got a clue, don't know. So, with these changes to Dr. Home and adding in some weird compositions that you're able to make with Ninja Bite Backpack, this actually can make Dr. Home a viable option for endgame, which it previously wasn't really, simply just because of those armor pickups. Although the healing has been decreased substantially, although it only seems like on paper not a lot, 15% to 10%, that 15% pickup was subject to other multipliers in your build as well as overall compositions. Now it isn't. It effectively adds or acts as preservation for your team, which does have its utilization benefits. It is pretty handy to have, although I wouldn't really go too much out of your way to formulate a full-on build for it. You most likely will just be able to get just a standard DPS build and put Dr. Home on it that way, and ta-da, you can act as a weird pseudo healer for your team. It is better. It's kind of fun. It's an interesting and dynamic way to play. I'm still playing around with varying different Dr. Home setups to see if we can get it potentially into a more stable setting. However, for the moment, this is just something that I've been playing around with. It does work as a pseudo healer. This overall build works pretty well as a pseudo healer while offering substantial to okay DPS, and does allow you to hold your own even in Legendary. Though the majority of this does just come from Dr. Home's own base stats. At base, it is the highest DPS rifle in the game. It's just the lack of a damage talent that really actually makes it. There are some issues with the attachments, simply just because none of them are damaging. Crit chance, crit damage, headshot, they're all pretty much handling of some description: accuracy, stability, reload speed, etc. It's not the worst weapon in the game, it never really was. It's actually always been pretty high on the DPS listings. There's just never been really much point in its talent. Now there kind of is. Although I wouldn't put it top tier, due to the recent changes, it has definitely crept up on the, if there was a tiering system, it's definitely crept up slightly, just simply because of the talent change. So yes, this is my combat medic build. It's worthwhile. We're doing legendary here, although obviously I am a medic, so you could argue this is just pure carry. Though as you can hopefully see, I was doing pretty decent-ish in the damage department. Nothing really to write home about, but I can look after myself. The heals, although they're hard to keep track of because it's based off of armor on kill, does add a bit of survivability to the team. It is generally a worthwhile build. As I said earlier, pristine example: Ninja Bite backpack, Fox's Prayer knees, and 4-piece future initiative. This gives us 2-piece Araldi, which is doing this for the headshot damage, 2-piece Overlord, which is an increase in rifle damage and accuracy, and effectively having 4-piece future initiative, 1 to buff your team, 2 for a little bit of extra in the healing department. The idea is we are a medic. If you want to go for more healing rather than more DPS, like I said earlier, change the chest over to future initiative chest and change your backpack to memento. Anyway, that just about does it for this video. I hope you enjoy combat medics. Have fun. Good luck. Don't die. It's bad for the health.